Welcome to episode number 26 of the Between Two Brands podcast. I'm still your host, whether you want me to be or not. But I am still your host, Bill Petrie, and I want to thank you again for joining me on this fun little podcasting experiment. Before we get started, let me go ahead and pay the rent as I like to do. Hey, if you haven't noticed, there's been a ton of changes in the promotional products industry in the last few years, from big distributor moves to supplier consolidation. It's honestly hard to keep up with all of it. Frankly, that's why I'd like to start the podcast today to talk about something we don't talk often enough about, and that is stability. With all the changes that absolutely happen on a regular basis, it's just as important to talk about companies that are established, stable, and strong. For over 90 years and four generations of family ownership, Shapenko has genuinely cared about the success of their clients. And that, my friends, is the definition of stability. Another point, they only sell through promotional products distributors. And because of that, Shapenko is dedicated to doing more than just delivering quality merchandise at a fair price. They go the extra mile to ensure every single distributor project is a resounding success. It's the right way to do business, and that is how you continue to be stable and strong heading into the next 90 years. The bottom line, Shapenko has absolutely stood the test of time. The experience, the products, and the people are absolutely the best. So I invite you, dear listener, to head over to shapenko.com to start your next project today. All right. So before we get to our guest, which I'm super excited about, this has been a very interesting week for me. This podcast is dropping on July the 11th. Why has it been an interesting week? I'm glad you silently asked yourself, or maybe even did it out loud. Who could possibly say? I wish we knew. It's been an interesting week because on Sunday, July 6th, was the fifth anniversary of Brandivate. Kind of a milestone thing there, and I posted about it on social media and very excited about it, and even wrote my blog about it this past week or this past Monday. And then the day this drops on Friday, the July 11th, is I'm getting on a plane with my friend, my business partner, Josh Robbins, and both our wives, Sandy and Jill, and we're heading to Cabo San Lucas for our fourth large Promocations event. That's actually our fifth event if you include the promo queues. So let's call it the fifth event, our fifth Promocations event. And this one is our first land-based event, and so kind of a big week going on. Five times, 5 years, five times, two things exciting there. And I thought, those numbers, those even those 10-year marks, those 5-year marks, or 5-time marks, that's a great time to do a little bit of reflection. And so reflect I shall. With Promocations, man, I got to tell you, it has been such a fantastic but hard working ride to create something from nothing. I will tell you, and so will Josh, event planning is 1000% no joke. It is one of the most difficult things and to do to pull off an event. And I'm proud to say I feel like we've done a very good job of doing that. But I got to tell you, the work involved in that, down to the minutia of details. I wrote on my notes as I'm looking down, details, and there are just a million details. From coordinating everybody's flight times coming in, transportation, where are people sitting at the round robin dinners to ensure that every person gets a unique experience that absolutely adds value to not only the time they take away from the office, but to their business and down the road. It's just an incredibly challenging thing, and it really takes a very focused mind, very focused time, and the amount of time to do something like this, I can't even measure, to be honest with you. And then, we've tried to do things differently with Promocations, from including plus ones at every event. That's not something other industry networking events do. We actively encourage and hope that people bring their plus ones. It creates such a different and awesome dynamic. We have suppliers who generally fund a large portion of the event. We have them invite distributors. They have a say in who attends these events, and we absolutely love that. And then we even built an app that people get to use during the event to see who is at the event, what the agenda is, get push notifications, share photos. Every single thing is in that app. And that takes so much coordination, so much planning. And so, my point of all this in reflecting on the Promocations, it's been amazing to see what kind of tribe, and I hate that word, but it absolutely tracks here. I love the tribe that we've built. It's become this little mini group in the industry. And I know, and I'll speak for Josh here, it's something we are incredibly proud of. On the brandivate side of things, 5 years. Hard for me to believe that this has been going on for 5 years. And I look back, I was 50 years old and going out on my own at 50. I had a business partner at the time. Going out at 50 in the height of the pandemic maybe was one of the most bold things, if not the boldest thing I've ever done. It's certainly the most bold thing I've done professionally, for sure. Again, hard work, kind of a theme, I guess, with this reflection. A lot of hard work building a business. Had a business partner in Kelsey Cunningham. She had left after 2 years to pursue other interests. So I've now been doing this on my own for longer than I had a business, a partner to do this with. And it's been a lot of sacrifices. My family has absolutely sacrificed time with me, things that we wanted to do. We had some things we wanted to do financially that we had to put off because I started Brandivate. But it's paid off. And I think, in talking with Sandy, my wife, and my kids, they see the value, and not that they didn't, they always have, but now they're realizing, wow, this really is working, and this is something that is sustainable. And I'm excited, as into 2025, it's been a year of investment, which is something I'm not sure I ever thought I'd get to. A absolute year of investment. I wrote and I've shared that I have an office now. I still do like to do the podcast out of my house. It's just comfortable. I think the internet's a little bit more stable because it's hardwired into my computer. But I absolutely love going to the office when I want to, which is almost every day. I really enjoy it. I can focus. It's my focused workspace. And another investment, computer. I was working on, up until February of this year, a janky setup of an old tower desktop that was 3 years old going on 30, and a laptop that was almost 5 years old. So that has been able, and it was a sizable investment. That's not a big time or brag, but it was something I needed to do this business right, to run the programs I want, to have the quality of podcasting that I want. It took a lot of that. And I love how the clients that I've built, and I love the clientele I've built up. I love that they see the value in what we do for them here. And I feel like I'm hitting my stride. 5 years in, I don't feel like the best is in my past, in my rearview mirror. I feel like the best is yet to come. So what have I learned about myself throughout these last, let's say, 5 years with Brandivate and Promocations? I truly, absolutely love creating something tangible that didn't exist before. It is truly a drug for me, whether it's a company like Brandivate or Promocations, whether it's the app we use at the Promocations events. I absolutely love creating something, or even this podcast. I absolutely love creating something that didn't exist before. That is such a narcotic for me. Success for me is when a client on the Brandivate side or an attendee on a Promocations event shares a success story. For Brandivate to be somebody telling them, somebody telling a client independently, "Hey, I've noticed the marketing you're doing. Hey, your social media presence has really picked up." Or, "Hey, I didn't know about you before. I'd like to talk to you," and that results in actual business. Man, I love that. Absolutely love that. On the Promocation side, we have returning suppliers, people willing to spend their budget in connecting with distributors, and they choose to spend it with us. That's not lost on me. I absolutely love it. When we hear this is the best industry event I've ever attended, man, I can't tell you how much that feels, how great that feels. And it makes all the hard work pay off. And it's become a true family. And there have been people in the extended Promocations family, people who've attended events that have had challenges, have had family members pass away and things like that. And we have come together as a group and supported them, sent hundreds upon hundreds of dollars in meal gift cards because we couldn't be there physically to help them. But it's been amazing to see that group come together. I learned that, I haven't learned, but I validated, I still love getting my hands dirty, building the app. I love the tinkering with that, the details. I mentioned that it's both on the brandivate side and on the promocation side in the planning. I love the planning. I do. It's fun. It's fun to plan. Again, creating out of thin air an event that didn't exist before, or creating it out of thin air a marketing campaign that didn't exist before that absolutely adds value to somebody. The partnerships with the people, man, I'm so thankful for my partner, Josh Robbins, in Promocations. Many of you know also, he was kind of the angel investor in Brandivate when we launched. So I'll always be eternally thankful for him and that partnership that we still have and friendship we still have. Kelsey Cunningham, who was a critical part of Brandivate in the first, certainly leading up to the launch of Brandivate in the first 2 years. I'm eternally thankful for her for taking that leap with me. And then the larger partnerships of the clients I have and all that. It's been fun. And then the relationships made. It sounds cliche that, hey, my clients have become my friends, but that's been the case. On my experience, both on the Brandivate side and on the Promocation side. It is amazing what how my personal life and professional life have absolutely been transformed over the past 5 years, all for the better. I've never worked harder in my life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So thank you for listening to my quick little reflection here. Let's pay one more bill before we welcome our guest, who is sure to entertain all of us. Many people know how to build a business, but few understand not only when to sell your business, but the process involved to ensure that you find the right partner and maximize the return on your investment. Honestly, it's where you need an expert, especially a promotional products industry expert, to help you, which is where our friends over at Certified Marketing Consultants come in. Jamie Watson and her team have decades of experience facilitating private company sales in the branded merchandise space. To help you evaluate if it's time to sell your business, why don't you go ahead and reach out to Certified Marketing Consultants at info@certifiedmarketing.com for a confidential discussion today. And hey, if you're going to be in Chicago in about 10 days for the ASI show, she's going to be there too, and she'd love to meet with you. Hit her up with an email, jamiew@certifiedmarketing.com. All right, let's bring on our guest. My guest today absolutely does not need an introduction, especially from the promotional products industry, which probably you are if you're listening to this podcast. But anyway, I still like to waste his time, my time, and your time by introducing him anyway. So here we go. His career in the promotional products industry began in 2008 when his arm was twisted into a free trip to Vegas by his brother-in-law, BJ Vaughn, who is the owner of Blue Chip LLC. It's a promotional products distributor. The catch was to attend the education sessions and a trade show at the PPAI Expo. It took our guest 5 seconds flat for him to realize that this was what he was going to be doing with the rest of his life and professional career. What a misguided youth he must have had to have that realization. He went on to work on the distributor side of the industry for 5 years before making the switch to Headwear USA, a global leader in headwear manufacturing since 1974. At first, he took on a regional sales role and has worked his way up to national accounts manager. He has served on numerous volunteer committees for multiple regional associations as well as PPAI. He was also the inaugural chair for the Spark Work Group. Please join me in welcoming the one, the only, the mustachioed Jeff Franklin. Jeff, thank you so much for being on this silly little podcast. It's been a while. I wanted you on for a while, and I finally was able to get through your management, get to you, and you reluctantly agreed. So thank you.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of red tape to get me involved, Bill. It's
Layers,
just a tremendous
layers.
amount of yeah onions you got to peel back for sure. I do like the
Absolutely.
blippy glasses though, the blue orange. It's very Bill Petrie.
You know, look, I'm of a certain age. I need readers, and if I need readers, I'm going to get ones that are reasonably stylish. So there you go.
That's
And I
fair.
guess I
I
get
feel like,
I get to
look, I
yeah
know one of your industry secrets is that you're actually introverted. Most people
yeah
think you're extroverted, but you're actually introverted.
yeah.
And but the glasses that you're wearing kind of shout that you're less introverted than what you actually are.
I think these glasses shout that is a man who is trying desperately not to be 55 is unfortunate. It's a cry for help. It's really a cry for help, Jeff. Hey, thanks for coming on the podcast. I think you have a couple things you want to talk about. I've got five very easy questions for you to answer. What do you want to talk about, Jeff? What tickles your podcast fancy today?
Oh boy, I want you to solve the industry's problems in a quick
Okay,
5 minute session here, Bill Petrie.
let's do it.
Look, I know that you have a long studded history in the promotional products industry, and you've been very involved in the regional side of things as well as
Yeah.
on the national side through PPAI. Um, I think we're at a really a pivotal point in our industry as far as the oversaturation of shows. And I'm curious to get your take on what you think is going to happen over the next 5 years or so, because I feel like regionals are taking a back seat in certain places. There's a ton of end user shows that are happening that are instead of collaborating with regionals. And then on top of that, all the national shows and everything else that we've got to worry with, buying groups and all that good stuff. What is your take? What do you think is going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years as far as shows go?
Great
And when does the
question. I
levy
actually was
break?
Yeah, well, when Led Zeppelin tells us it's going to break. Here's I was actually going to talk about this, just the oversaturation of shows in the preamble part of the podcast. I didn't. I went a different direction. So I'm absolutely
Oh,
glad you
see, it
brought
would
this
have been
up.
so good had you done that. This would have been
No,
just,
then I would have been the redundant man of redundancy, and who wants that? There are way too many shows, and it's something it's easy for anybody to see, um, especially suppliers who are going to show after show after show after show. I mean, it seems like, especially during between May 15th and August 15th, every week there's a major show. I experience it from an event planning perspective with Promocations. We go far in advance to plan the cruises and the Cabo trip, which is next week as this podcast drops. And there's a Facilis event, there's this event, so people can't go, and it's incredibly frustrating. And it's not lost on Josh Robbins, my partner in Promocations, and me that the last thing this industry needed was another event. So I say, I go ahead. You're shaking your head.
I'm going to interrupt just for a second because I actually think that that's why what you guys are doing is so important because it's taking that and moving it to the next level. Whereas, but I
Yeah,
feel like because we're not quite at the point where the levies have broke,
yeah.
that it is pulling people away from being able to take part in stuff like what you're doing.
I agree. And so there's so many shows. I've said this for years on the old podcast I did with Kirby. I hate the industry calendar for suppliers. It's just I actually my angle this morning, what I was going to take when I was recording it, but I didn't, was I don't know how suppliers get any work done. I don't know how any actual work gets done. Now, granted, the job of a supplier rep is not really sales, it's relationship building. So the work is being done at those events, whether it's a large distributor, whether it's a regional trade show, whatever it is. The work's being done because you're building the relationships. That being said, there's other work that needs to be done outside of that. There's emails, there's reports, there's presentations, there's mock-ups, there's all sorts of shit that needs to be done. When does the levee break? I think it's right there. The regionals are suffering big time, as you know. Your wife is your bride, your lovely bride is a director at camp, the Carolina Association, and she might be. Is she another one? She's another one too, right? Or
She
just
actually
two?
just resigned from PMANC, but yeah, she was
Okay,
at two.
okay. So the regionals are really struggling. And I hate that coming from the regional community. But if I look at it objectively, most of the regionals are just trying to quote unquote fix the trade show. And maybe it's time to do something different than a trade show. If there's only so many trade shows people can go to, or they're like, why am I going to go see that person again, take time out of the office, or that product again? I think we're there. Uh, I think it's going to take suppliers saying, and it's already happening, is suppliers starting to pick and choose. Yeah, I'm not doing that event. I'm not going to those large quote unquote national shows. I'm not exhibiting there because hey, I have X amount of budget and I can't be everywhere. So because there are so many shows, I'm being forced to make those decisions. So I think that's what's really going to be the levee breaking is when, PPI Expo is always going to be around. That's the Super Bowl. ASI Orlando always going to be around. ASI Chicago, I think will always be around. I don't know. I think there needs to be a large trade show in the summer. Other than that,
I don't
man,
know. I feel like Chicago's better than Orlando now.
that I'll take your word for it. I haven't been to ASI Orlando in years. So it's just always too close to Vegas. I don't need to be at that show, so I don't go. My two shows I make sure I go to every year are Expo and ASI Chicago.
And well, and that's why maybe I say what I say because I feel like a
Yeah,
lot of people are taking that approach where they're just if they have to choose one in January, they're most likely going to pick Expo just because it is the
yeah,
Super Bowl, as you had mentioned.
yeah.
But
It's
the reason I asked
I
that
think so.
question
Yeah,
was, just because I feel like, we are at that point, and it's like I am a huge advocate of the regionals. I'm a huge advocate of shows, but
yeah,
it's very similar to sports. Like the reason the NFL is so good is because there's 17 games, and
yeah,
there's one game a week, and it's easy to follow and be involved.
yeah,
We all only have so much time. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But then the NBA, I think we were even talking about this a couple weeks ago, is like I can't really
yeah,
follow the NBA because there's a freaking game every night. It's like I don't have
yeah.
I don't have the mental capacity or the time suck to have
Right.
that.
Scarcity can be an incredible tool when you're building something. It's one of the things, when you talk about the NFL in a positive light, let me talk about it in the negative light. I don't need a game every Monday night, don't need a game Thursday night, don't need a game Friday, don't need a game Saturday. I like the NFL on Sunday. If it was me and I'm redoing the NFL, I think it would be Sunday night, and Monday night. I don't want a Thursday night game unless it's Thanksgiving or something like that. To me, they're starting to cannibalize themselves. I mean, by the time December rolls around and college football is over, there's a game Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday. It's too much. And I never thought I'd say I had
Agreed.
too much football, but there is too much. And they're going to end up hurting the product, my opinion. And that's kind of what we're
Yep,
talking about with shows. There's too many of them. There's just too many.
exactly. So yeah, that's what I
Excellent.
wanted to ask you, sir. So
You
I
did.
don't know if we've solved
Okay.
any of the industry's issues, but hopefully we've shed some light on it.
Well, I think we can solve issues by signing up for that promo cruise that's coming up this fall from our good friends over at Promocations. Head over to promocations.com. That cruise is leaving out of Tampa, Florida on November the 3rd. Still a couple spots left from what I hear. Okay, Jeff. I have five very easy questions. I know you pretty well. We've worked together on a lot of things, but I don't know if everybody knows you as well as I do. So, may I ask you some easy questions? Good. You don't have to answer. That was a rhetorical question. All right. All right, Jeff. Headwear USA jumped to number 26 this year on the PPAI 100. I have two questions. Number one, how much did your amazing facial hair contribute to that ranking? And number two, how many hats do you actually own and how do you secure them in case of a burglary?
That's a great question, Bill. A nice little
Thank you for
two-stepper
knowing
there.
that. Thank you for knowing that.
So, how much did my facial hair have to do with climbing from 100 to number 26 on the PPI Top
Mhm.
100? I'd say
Yeah.
easily 97% of it is from the facial hair for sure.
Excellent.
Um, no, in all fairness, PPI is the letter I is international, and we've got a huge international branch to Headwear. Obviously, we've got 15 locations around the world.
Right.
And so PPI has taken a huge interest in the international approach. And so that's been a huge part of that for sure. We've got an amazing team behind us. We're growing big time. And actually, there's some news that's going to be breaking here in just within the next week or so about some restructuring that we're doing as well because we're growing so much. So stay tuned
Great.
for that. But then the second part to your question, if I
Hmm.
remember correctly, which I don't.
Yeah. It's how many hats do you own and how do you
How many
secure
hats
them
do I
in
own?
case of some sort of crime at your
Yes.
home, some sort of burglary? How are they secured? What does the alarm system look like? Is it elaborate lasers like in Mission Impossible? Is it some sort of vault? What are we looking at here?
I have a sign that says I don't call 911 because I'm equipped with the Second Amendment, so I
Okay.
don't have to worry about burglaries.
Okay.
However, I have too many hats to count, and if I bring another one home, my wife will probably use those said guns to, possibly sway me not to bring another hat home. Uh,
Understood.
yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not, sir.
It honestly, it did. I have a second question, John. All right. You and I are both fierce advocates for the promotional products industry, and we annually attend LEAD, which is Legislative Education and Action Day at PPAI. It's where we go to Capitol Hill, advocate for small businesses through the lens of promotional products to senators, representatives, and staff. It's a great event, but Jeff and I have done that for years. Now, let me ask you this, Jeff. What's the best part of lobbying, and why was at the time a junior staffer thought you were selling mustache wax?
Well, the best part of lobbying is basically understanding how much PPAI really does for the association and for our industry to advocate on Capitol Hill to make our presence known. Because God knows this is the industry that everybody knows about but has no idea it actually exists.
Yeah.
So I think that that lobbying really comes into play there. I think they never really take a huge political stance one direction or one side of the aisle or the other as far as uh, the actionables that they actually
Mhm.
bring to lead, um, which basically means they're taking a very narrow approach as far as what they're going to select to choose for their asks. And I think they're always very important to us. Like we've talked about independent contractors in the past, we've
Mhm.
talked about tariffs and all these other good things that affect us all as a regional or as an association or industry.
Yeah.
And why would a staffer think I'm selling mustache wax? I don't know. Maybe because there's might
I
be a
have
little bit
no
of something,
idea.
something slipping
Yeah.
on the down low.
Yeah, if you're just listening to this podcast and not watching, Jeff has a glorious handlebar mustache. And as I told him a few weeks ago when I saw him, my dad rocked that same mustache that Jeff Franklin is now sporting my entire life. I never saw him without it, ever. So, yeah. And as I told Jeff, my dad grew it. This tells you what kind of psychosis I have. Uh, my dad grew it because he sang in a barbershop quartet I was a young boy. We lived in Chicago. He sang for the Chicago Fire, a pretty famous barbershop quartet. And generally, there's someone in a barbershop quartet, someone has a handlebar mustache, the stereotypical picture, Norman Rockwell painting. Um, my psychosis is he kept it because my mom thought it was sexy. So there you go. As far as lead, I agree with you. I love it. I always, when people ask me what it is, I say we advocate for small businesses because I really believe that's what we're doing through the lens of branded merchandise. Yeah, we talk about the efficacy of branded merchandise, but we do talk about things like how tariffs are really impacting, especially this year, impacting our industry and our possibly hampering growth and hampering things like that. We talk about what you said, independent contractor laws and things like that. And one of the things, it seems like the only mass knowledge of the promotional products industry are people either in the industry or people who want to use that as their platform for we are going to cut waste from spending, while at the same moment they're using those same products to get reelected. It's kind of frustrating, but no, it's something I love too, and I love talking about because I think it's the best thing PPAII does. It's the most important thing they do, in my opinion.
Very
All right.
cool. I agree.
All right, Jack. Back in the earliest days of Spark, you and I had a bit of a disagreement about optics. So, in the spirit of honesty, at what point did you realize you might be able to learn a thing or two from old dogs like me in the industry?
As soon as I saw you wearing those glasses.
So recently, then.
No, listen. I don't know, man. Are we digging up old wounds here?
I'll,
Um,
I'll set the table. I'll do it briefly and then you answer the question. Um, Back when Spark, the inaugural Spark event, which was aimed at millennials, younger people in the promotional products industry, which I actually loved the idea of the event. I was very supportive of the event, but the way it was documented by PPAI was not great. I stand on that. It was because you had an audience of Gen Xers like me, certainly some boomers and things like that, who were already very, that were, I was not, but other people were very wary of this event. Like, why are we having this event just for young people? Which I think is a terrible stance. But what happened was because the way PPAI documented it, it it just validated those weird and incorrect feelings of a lot of people, and that's what I didn't like. I didn't express that as well as I just did right now back then, so it came across like I was complaining about the event. I wasn't, but that's where the optics came in because I that was the term I used.
Well, I think the major issue or stance that was taken was the fact that uh, any publication about the event that was released seemed like everybody had a beer in their hand
Yeah.
during said photo. And to that I say, have you ever been to an industry event? But
Look, the irony is
aside
not
from
lost
that,
on me. The irony is not lost on me that we run events that generally have a swim up pool bar. So the irony is not lost on me. I'm allowed to be
yeah,
wrong too. I still think it was every picture, not just most of the pictures, it was every single one.
yeah. And I don't think that you're wrong necessarily. I think that
Yeah.
there could have been a lot more information shared with the general public as far as the Spark event. But I would say that about every event that we do as an industry. I don't think any event anywhere ever in this industry is really expressed well or easily accessed.
Yeah, I agree. And that was my beef too. Is like, well, we want to know. I wanted to know because I actually, like I said, I was a big fan of the event. And heck, 2 years later, I was, I spoke at like over half a day at Spark.
Yeah.
So I was a big supporter of the event, but I wanted to know what happened. Other than, hey, we went here, everybody went to the dispensary, everybody went to this brewery. I wanted to know more than the social aspect of it. I really wanted to know, okay, because I firmly believe that younger people. Gosh, I sound like an old man. Well, the younger generation, they look at things differently. Every generation looks at things differently than the generations that came before them. And I want to learn from that. I'm dedicated to learning from that. So that was, and again, I didn't express myself very well. So, yeah, I remember, yeah. So we're not digging up. There's no bad blood, by the way, people. It's funny
Oh, I know.
now.
Yeah.
In fact, again, I said the optics were bad. That was my quote. And then when I spoke at Spark in Charlotte, North Carolina, I just wore a T-shirt that just said hashtag optics.
Yeah. It was very funny.
All right. Hey, apparently you and I started a podcast together many years ago called The Industry Insider. And you currently co-host a podcast called Branding Banter. You should check that out if you haven't. I believe it's on Promo Corner, Promo Journal. As the person who launched your podcasting career, your podcast daddy, if you will, do you light a candle in my honor every time you fire up the mic or just pretend I was a fever dream from your rookie stint in broadcasting?
So you're my podcast daddy. Yeah, that's very interesting. Considering you just said my mustache reminds you of your daddy. So Billy, I will just say that I do really enjoy the times that we've shared together on a podcast microphone, sir. But no, I was always a fan of what you and Kirby did, and I remember approaching you about that, about the different perspectives of the industry. Because obviously you were a service provider at the time, Kirby was a
Mhm.
distributor at the time, and I was like, well, where's the supplier, perspective coming from in these conversations?
Yeah.
So. It was a conversation that we'd had, and then you said that you wanted to keep you and Kirby as a separate thing, and I was totally cool with that. But you were like, "We should definitely do this, though. Let's find a distributor that we can pull on board as well." And then it just spiraled from there. We got Stephen McFadden on board, and then the other person, can't think of her name, but you brought her on.
Meg Erber.
Oh yeah, Meg Erber. That's not a throwback to a few episodes ago or anything, is it, Bill?
Nope, not at all.
It's all right. I mean,
I have no idea what you're
you've
talking
called me
about.
John and Jack intentionally a few times on
Oh, I
this one,
did?
so
Oh, I'm sorry. I have no idea.
Nah, man,
Awesome.
Bill,
All
I
right.
love you, and I love the fact that you have created this podcast sort of platform for the industry. And there's a lot of podcasts actually in the industry now, so I think you kind
There
of
are.
owe yourself a little pat on the back for all of that.
I don't know about that. That's for other people to decide, but thank you for the lovely compliment. Last question, Jeff. I know you love a good bourbon. It's something we share in common. Absolutely, we share in common. Uh, what's your go-to bottle? I have a couple just quick kind of rapid fire things. What is your go-to bourbons for, let's say, celebrating a big win? What's your go-to bourbon for celebrating a big win?
Celebrating a big win would either be Basil Hayden or Blanton's.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, but if it's a go-to just for like a general like a I just need a drink, need
Nope.
to decompress, it's
I didn't ask that. I
all
didn't
right,
ask that.
fine.
Hold on to that one. I have a couple more, and then I want your standard. I do want to know it, but you're ruining my preparation, and I will not stand for it, sir.
Well, it's what I like to do, Bill.
No, you do great. What is your go? What is your everyday bottle? So you're celebrating a big win. Is Basil Hayden's just standard issue Basil Hayden's, or is it toasted barrel? Is it any sort of
Just standard issue. Super
okay?
smooth,
And so
very nice.
perfect. What's your everyday drinker?
Well, I don't have an everyday drinker anymore.
Your go
because I
your
don't drink every
your
day
basic,
anymore.
right?
I've cut
I
back
don't
big
either.
time, Billy. All
I
right.
we me I get it. Me too.
Yeah. But
Uh,
no, the normal go-to just to mix with some Coke or something like that would be uh bullet bourbon, not
okay.
the rye,
Bullet.
the bourbon.
I understand. Okay, so what's your go-to bottle for drowning your sorrows of yet another Steelers playoff loss?
What was that drink we had in St. Pete a couple weeks ago?
The Carajillo?
Yeah, that one. I'm just gonna say that was miserable. So that would basically be my drink that I need to just really assimilate with misery.
That drink is nothing but delightful, sir. All right. Uh, what is your go-to bottle if you were forced to listen to the first time you were ever on a podcast? Because I know I've heard my first podcast with Kirby, and it's horrible. I have high voice, I have fast talk,
I'm
I've got all manner of issues. So, what's your go-to bottle to fight your way through that?
just gonna say Everclear. I feel like you need to go straight grain alcohol for that. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. It's listening to your
the
first
quicker I
being
can get to the
anything.
point to have to listen to that,
Yeah,
enough
I
said.
get that. I get
Yeah.
that. Hey, before I say goodbye to our guests and thank you for listening, if you haven't noticed, there's a ton of changes in the industry, and that's why stability is so important. And that's why I love our good pals over at Shapenko. For over 90 years, four generations of family ownership, they have defined stability in the promotional products industry, and they only sell through promotional products distributors. So they are completely focused on making sure you and your client are successful. Want to start a new project? I bet you do. Head over to shapenko.com right now after we say goodbye to Jeff. Jeff, thank you for taking the time for doing this a little bit of silliness with me. It's always good to see you, certainly in person. This is always fun to do, and I think we might have to do this again at some time down the road.
I'd love it, man. Thank you for having me. It was great. I don't know if that was 5 questions or not. If it was quick. I'll take
It
it.
was five. It was five, and now this podcast is now over.